to use them, you socket them into your weapons or armor. So here we have a wand, which I'm socketing these fireballs in, and then when you do that, you can start casting it. So by itself, this would be a really simple fireball skill, but that's where our skills system really comes into its own with support gems. So this here, you'll notice my wand has linked sockets, and this is a multiple projectile support gem. When I link these two together, now with every attack I cast multiple projectiles. This system works with not just fireballs though, you can do it with any skill that has projectiles. Like for example here we have Ice Spear, which works equally well with, and also Freezing Pulse. But there's also a huge number of ways to augment your fireballs. For example, over here we have a skill called Spell Totem. When you link this with your fireball, it allows you to, instead of casting fireball when you cast it, it casts a turret that will fire at your enemies automatically, allowing you to go and do other things like casting other skills. You can link up to 5 skill gems together to create like a huge variety of different effects. For example, here we have a totem that's firing multi-shot forking fireballs. So there's a whole lot of ways you can change things up. But there's a huge number of other things you can do as well. To give you a few examples, you can turn any skill into a trap, like here. You can cast skills automatically when you kill monsters, or maybe when you take damage. You can even change the element type of a skill. So there's just a huge number of ways you can do these sorts of things. There are 102 skill gems and 69 support gems. So with the ability to link 5 support gems to a skill, the number of combinations here is extremely staggering. But if you want to get the most out of your skill gems, you're also going to need to use Path of Exile's passive skill system. So here we have the passive tree. So let me just zoom out here. So as you can see, the skill tree is extremely large. There's over 1,400 skills in the tree, and it took a really long time for our designers to make. So each class starts in a different location of the skill tree, and you can allocate 1 point per level. So here we have the Witch starting area, where you'll find things like spell damage and cast speed and that kind of thing, as she's the primary caster. On the other hand, the Marauder starting area over here, you'll find things like melee damage and life and that kind of thing, as he's the primary strength class. The skill tree contains a lot of different types of things, from very general, just kind of attributes, to very specific things like, say, trap damage. But there's also some really other interesting skills in the tree that we call keystones. For example, here we have Point Blank, which changes it so that your ranged attacks do very little damage far away, but a lot more damage close up. Normally, if I was a ranger, I'd want to try and kill all of the monsters from far away. But if I had this Point Blank passive, instead I would want to build a really tanky character, wait until the monsters get close, and then try to kill them there for maximum damage, which would be a lot more damage than you'd normally be able to get. Another great example is Necromantic Aegis. So here, all of the properties of your shield, rather than applying to you, apply to your minions. So it's both an advantage and a disadvantage, because you have less defenses, but your minions have more. And there's some very interesting effects with unique items, which can allow you to really, this kind of skill really allows you some customization. So both of those two things together, the skill gem system and the passive system, are alone already make it for a very good amount of customizability. But if you really want to get deeper into it, you're going to need to look at the item system. So like any RPG, items are a huge focus. There are 4 basic types of items. There are normal items, magic items, rare items, and unique items. So unique items aren't necessarily the most powerful, but they're definitely the most interesting. So for example, this one here called the Covenant, a unique armor, has an ability called Blood Magic on it, among other things. Which means that when you cast spells, they come out of your life points rather than your mana points. So this is a really dangerous thing, but for skilled players, it can be easier to get extra life than extra mana. So this is something that those players can really take advantage of, and it really changes the way the character plays. On the other hand, over here we have another unique called Montragul's Grasp, which is a unique scepter. With this item, you have a decreased number of zombies you can summon, but each one of them does more damage. They're much larger, and each time they attack, they cause the monsters to explode, dealing damage to nearby other ones. So this kind of thing is really fun to play with, and there are over 300 uniques, all of which have interesting effects, and we're adding more all of the time. So as I said, these three areas together, passive skills, skill gems, and unique items, really come together to allow for a huge amount of customization. Our players continually come up with more and more ways to kill our toughest enemies. And what I'm hoping is that when we bring Path of Exile to Taiwan in 2014, but I'll see some more interesting builds coming out of Taiwan as well. So thank you very much for that. Now I'd like